joining us today, everyone. I'm Shaylee Nadavetti, and I will be your host today. I want to welcome everyone to day 2 of our series, Debunking College Admissions. In this series, Shape Your Future will bring you college admission experts to cover everything from college essays and extracurriculars to finding colleges and receiving scholarships. In today's sessions, we'll be going over what college admissions officers look for in college applications. You can find our website with the link in the comments or find out more information about Shape Your Future for details and notifications for our other events. To hear about our latest updates and information, be sure to join our subscription list. Now, I'm really excited to introduce everyone to our guest today, David. David is the past founder of College Confidential and has been Vice President of Enrollment Management at numerous colleges across the nation. He knows the ins and outs of college admissions and knows exactly what colleges are looking for and how colleges are looking at you. David, without any further ado, let's get started.
Hey, thank you for the invite, Jaylee. Just so folks know, I know that you're in California or somewhere nearby. I'm currently in Indiana at Earlham College. It's a top-tier private school here in the Midwest. My home is in Virginia, but I have served 10 different colleges and universities on both coasts, from the Pacific Northwest to the Southeast to the Midwest and to the North. And I'm also a father of 3 college graduates. And so I went through this with my own students, and I learned a lot. I learned much more from them than I did in 31 years of doing this job. But so I wanted to take some time and to share with you what I've learned. And if I can start with this 2 questions. One, and you don't have to answer them, but one, wouldn't it be great if you knew what all these colleges actually wanted for admission information when you fill out an application? Wouldn't it be great if they simply told you do these 4 or 5 things and you're in? Of course it would. And wouldn't it be great if every college university would tell you what they did with yours and your parents' financial information so you actually knew how they developed your financial aid package? Sure, I would. I'd love to know all that. Well, I actually do know that. And what my job here is to help you understand what to ask and how to ask it when we walk through some of these issues. But my answer to both those questions is, if you ask all 4,000 colleges and universities in this country what information they use and how they use it, guess what? Yes, you're going to get 4,000 different answers. So the first thing I want you to understand is that no college uses the same information the same way. And so it's on you, the customer, really, the client, to figure out what it is we're looking for. And the number one tool you have to use to figure that out is to simply ask. But what should I ask? There you have it. That's how I'm going to help you tonight. Let's start with what criteria is used by top colleges for admissions. Well, think of this for just a minute. Every single high school senior in the United States, if not the world, looking to come to school in the United States, gives us the same exact information every time for decades, even today. And that is a grade point average on your transcript, a test score, possibly an essay or 2, a recommendation or 2 from people who only say good things about you because you picked them. And you wrap it all up and you stick it in the mail, or you do it online nowadays, and then you sit and wait. There's a problem with that whole process. And that is, let's take, since I can see her face, let's take Shaylee for a minute. Do you think that application that you're going to fill out, Shaylee, represents your whole life and who you are as a human being?
Definitely not.
If I asked your parents, do you think they would say, yep, that's the whole thing about her and we know everything about her?
No.
Do you have any little brothers or sisters?
Yeah.
If I asked them and bribed them, they'd tell me stuff about you, wouldn't they? Of course they would.
Probably.
Yeah. So here's my point, folks. Your parents, your friends, your teachers, your guidance officers, your siblings, they know who you are. We do not. So the risk is on us. We don't know who's coming to college. All we know is you have grades, you took tests, you wrote an essay. Hopefully you wrote it. I know there's some coaching out there, and you've got people recommending you. And so if there's nothing else to it, the system isn't designed for us to really make a good decision. So what I'm going to introduce to you tonight is the most effective way colleges look at you is as a whole human being. It's called holistic admission criteria. I know this is important because I have plenty of 4.0 GPA, what I call AP everything. It's a student who took all 12 or 16 AP courses in their high school, does everything they possibly can, nails more nails at Habitat for Humanity than a student next door, and they just look like they've never failed at anything in their entire life. Because applications are only designed for you to tell us good things about you. And so what I'm suggesting to you is take the time to get to know the person in the admission office who actually is going to read your application. Get to know them, get in a text basis with them, email basis when they call. Don't block them on your phone. Make sure it's the right person, the admission counselor. You go onto the website and find out who it is that handles your part of California, and say, I need you over the next year to get to know me because I'm applying to your university or college. Why is this important? Well, we have something called showing interest. If a student never visits a college or university, even if it's their own backyard, doesn't go to any on-campus programs, doesn't participate in any virtual program, which all of us are doing now, only answers a couple emails, we have no idea if you're really interested or not. So interest in the school, consistent interest during your last part of your junior year and all of your senior year goes a long way along with your grades. Okay, so let me give you some other things about transcripts. Now let's skip to this just for a second. We look at transcripts and standardized test scores and extracurriculars. The most important thing all of us really look for, at least the quality schools in America, is one word: consistency. Let me describe that for you in some fun terms. And these are real cases I'm going to share with you today over my career. I had a student who actually took the ACT 3 times. He got a 35 the first time, a 35 out of 36 the second time. And when he met me in my office, he said, I'm going to take it a third time because I know I can get a 36. I felt like telling him, you can stop now. You've already blown it out of the water. It won't impress me. You're going to get admitted as long as I see your GPA. Well, then I got his GPA and he had a 1.9. Since Shaylee, the only one I can talk to here, I realize everyone's not visible. What do you think is wrong with that student with a high test score and a low GPA?
Well, I don't know. Clearly, they didn't try in school and they're not committed to their education.
That's the top answer. Very good. Other answers are possible. Some people have learning differences, medical differences. Their parents may have been divorced. They may have had a family in the military who was often on assignment for a while. Births, deaths, divorces, the dog died. Who knows what it is? But the fact is, when we see inconsistencies between the grades and the test scores, we ask, wow, what's going on there? It's in your best interest to explain these things personally to the person reading your application, the admission counselor in the area. Here's another example. I had a student with a 4.25 who did take all the all the AP's classes she could take in her very nice, very well-to-do private high school. But her test score came in at about an 800 on the SAT. And so the first thing most people think of is, oh, they don't take tests well. Well, I found out that this person had a disability and needed extra time and was afraid to ask for it. And so these are extreme cases. Hopefully everyone listening to me tonight doesn't fit that bill, but if you do, it's okay. You shouldn't hide things. because you're afraid you won't get in. You do not have to be perfect to get into colleges and universities today. What you have to do is be honest. The National Association for College Admission Counseling, which is our professional organization, printed last year the fact that you can get admitted to 95% of the private colleges and universities in America right now with a B plus or better, and an average SAT of about 1150 to 1200. You don't know that. The reason is the demographics are declining of college-bound high school graduates, so there's fewer of you to go around. That's in your favor. But we look for things that are inconsistent. Let's use this final thing. If a teacher, you pick your English teacher in school who you had for senior English, and she or he says, this is my best student I've taught in 35 years of teaching English. And I read this essay and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to go right for the transcript. If I don't see straight A's or A pluses or A minuses for English coursework and I see C's, there's something wrong. Okay, I hate to see her worst student in 35 years. Well, let's say the grades look great, even AP English. If the test scores don't say the same thing, then we have an inconsistency. And so we look for consistency in extracurriculars, in standardized testing scores and transcripts. And if everything works out, that's fine. A quick word about extracurriculars. Don't load it up with things that you think you have to do to get noticed. What I want you to do is stick with one or two things you really, really care about and have a passion for. I will look at that block on the application, the online application that says, please list the activities you were involved in from 9th to 12th grade in high school and indicate whether you're interested in doing it in college, yes or no. I've seen people, put 12 different activities, from marching band to thespian club to, Model UN. And it's like, my God, when do you people sleep? They're so busy. But when I see people start something and quit and start something and quit and start something and quit 2 years later, then I look at that consistency word. So my point to you is shoot for consistency. Don't overdo it. Don't take a test 3, 4, and 5 times because you want a better and better score. Here's an insider tip for you about standardized test scores. For those who require test scores, and we are test optional, one of the first colleges that ever went test optional, we don't use it at all unless you want us to. But here's a question you should ask your admission counselor. What grade, what points do I need to be accepted along with a reasonable GPA? Tell me specifically what your cutoff is. If they're unwilling to tell you, that tells you something about the school. If they say you should just keep taking it until you think you presented the very best, it's in our best interest for you to get the highest possible score to make us look good on US News and World Report, which has no bearing on selection of a college in the final analysis, by the way. But what I want you to do is say, wait a minute, if you told me that my 1400 SAT wasn't good enough, which I think is absurd, how many more points do I need to get how many more financial aid dollars? There's a question for you. If you already got accepted, but you think you need to take the test again, why bother taking it until you know what grade point and what SAT scores in combination give you how much merit scholarship? I'm going to tell you when to stop taking the test. Say, Chaley, that's enough. You're in, and you've got the highest possible merit scholarship. Don't sign up for the 4th SAT or ACT. You're done. And you're going to go, woo, thank you for telling me that. So these are just random tips that I've learned over the years that colleges don't want to tell you these things, and we really should. So you have a right to ask that kind of thing. Let me stop right there for a second and read. We have a question. Okay.
Yes. So the question is, if you have extracurriculars that you love and are committed to, but they aren't necessarily related to what you plan to major in, is that okay?
Not only is it okay, most of us prefer it. The top tier schools in the country would rather have somebody who wants to go pre-med or biology or biochemistry also have a sincere interest in music or art or theater, or you're interested in environmental studies because you're passionate about environmental issues, but you want to be an English major. That's exactly what we're looking for, a well-balanced applicant.
Okay, and another question. So we can email admission officers question. It won't sound awkward.
Oh my gosh. Please write us questions directly to the person. If we answer, and we better, you know you've got a good friend. The reason I say please do answer, because we're on the other side making hundreds of phone calls a week trying to reach you. And we know, first of all, most young people today don't answer the phone. They prefer either text or social media or something. But, please, once you get to college and your first job, email is what runs America. And so go ahead and send an email saying, I'm really interested in chemistry, or I'm really interested in sociology or something. What's it like to take those classes? Can you help me talk with a professor in that area that will actually teach me? I might actually have. And we're happy to do something different other than what we call smile and dial. Try to find you just to ask you, how come you haven't finished your application yet? How come you don't have your test scores into me yet? Do I need to call your guidance officer to help them get your essay in? But that's really important, that you reach out to us as a human being so we get to know you better.
Awesome, thank you. And then I think another question, where does the line between having multiple passions and having way too many unrelated things?
I think I understand what this person's asking. It really is how you position it in your application. Most schools require either a canned essay, a question you must answer. I'm not a fond of them. I'm not. I'm more interested in a personal statement. So for our school, if you say, when you look at my application, you're going to see about 15 different things. It looks like I'm scattered all over the map, or like marbles scattered across the floor. I really am interested in so many things. I can't figure out what I want to major in, but I want you to know I'm curious. I'm positive about life. I'm energetic. I want to learn more. And I know I'll see the patterns in education and my career all come together once I get there. Telling us why you have so many different interests and where that comes from, either here or up here, is where you load up that multiple passions answer. Does that make sense?
I think that does. Feel free to ask more questions either in the Q&A or the chat if you have any questions along the way, guys.
While they're waiting and thinking, let me give you a couple other tips here that I've learned. SAT scores. There are several different practices out there about standardized scores. We gave you one tip already, which is ask specifically how many points do I need to get admitted, and how many points do I need scored to get what level of scholarship. Those two questions are super important. If they tell you, well, we'll see, why don't you keep taking the test? Please remember my words. That's not for your benefit. It's for the school's benefit. Okay. We're here. This isn't about us looking good and looking prestigious and elite. That's bunk. What we care about should be you and where you're coming from and who you are and what you're capable of doing and learning and what you've already accomplished in your life so far. So make sure you work with a college, university that puts you first and makes you feel as though you're important to them and will treat you in a reciprocal manner. That's one of the key things I've learned visiting over 200 universities and colleges in my life with my own kids and then as a professional. And so when you walk on the UCLA's campus or Berkeley, and you just feel like, oh my gosh, I'll never get in here. What do I have to do? I'll never be in the top 2% of applications. Just ask. Find out what they value. Here's a tip for you. Go to the college's or university's website and look at the news section, campus news. If you find out, let's make this up, let's pretend that you're interested in esports, okay? And you're interested in not only maybe coding and creating esport games, but also interested in the marketing and finance and development side of it. And all of a sudden, you see in this university or college that some donor gave millions of dollars to start a computer science and esports academy or major. I will tell you, having been a fundraiser and an enrollment person, that the person who gave that money expects me, the college, to go find students with an interest. Second, that probably comes with a scholarship. They want me to build a class full of people because he or she gave me $20 million to start this program. If you find that out, you make sure you put that in your essay, or make sure you tell your admission representative at that university, hey, I am incredibly interested in development of games, game theory, and coding and production and marketing of all this, because it's one of the biggest majors in the country right now, by the way. And so there's one tip: find out what the school values. And it's the same thing can be said for performing and visual arts. If they just build a gigantic performing arts center, they're going to be looking for people, not only people to major in vocal and instrumental, but also people who don't want to major in it, who want to take some of their major, but still want to participate. My job as an enrollment vice president is to find you. So make my job easier.
Awesome. And then, okay, our next question is, how do we send an email to an admissions officer? How do we start off the conversation?
Okay, the first place you go is to the admissions site on the college's website. You click on the admissions button and you find Meet Our Team. Almost all of us has it. And when you click on Meet Our Team, either a map will come up or the faces will come up and it'll be description. It'll say he or she handles the central and southern parts of California or the northern parts of California, wherever you're from. And they'll give you a here, click here to contact me. It'll take you right to them. And you start the conversation by saying, hey, I was looking at your website. It looks like you have my major. Looks like you're doing some really exciting things. Let me tell you a little bit about me and my high school and why I think our high school is a great fit for your university or college. And if you said that to me, I would just say, thank God there's a real person out there, instead of, do you have biology? Of course we all have biology. You stand out by making yourself more interesting to us through your personal interaction. There's a really important thing here when I go back to the first point I made about holistic admissions. We see more than our share, thousands of applications of people with excellent grades, AP tests, scores, and SAT scores. What I'm really looking for is the human being outside of the paper. I'm looking for the 95% that your little brother and sister or your parents know about you, because I already got the 5%. Now, I don't want to know everything about you, obviously, that's creepy. But what I do want to know is what makes you different? Why do you want to study environmental studies and environmental science, or women's study and transgender studies, or business administration and entrepreneurship, or global studies? Where does that come from? You might start out by saying, I saw that program on your website. I see you have a lot of successful students and alumni. Your faculty look great. You know, can I tell you a little bit about what I'm looking for? And if they take the time and send back, sure, let's set up a time to chat or Zoom. You know you've got a friend in the office. That is showing interest. Don't be shy. We believe it or not, one of the tips and tricks I'm trying to tell you from the inside of the admissions world is we could really use some interesting folks instead of plowing through all these folders and looking at people by number all day long. We would welcome a personal conversation, because then on our database, I will click, I had a 5th conversation with her, or he said he's going to come visit our campus. This person's interested. You get a few more points on my admission chart.
I think that's a great advice. Like, I know me and so many of my peers like shy away from talking to admissions officer. Like we're like, oh, we don't want to bother them. We don't want like to not get in by bothering them or pestering them or anything like that. But as David said, it's great to email them and get in touch with them just so that they know you're really interested in the college.
Now, from the inside of higher education, let me share with you what it's really like to do this job and what it's really like to be a parent and a student visiting campuses. Some of you have probably already visited campuses on your own with your parents or with your older siblings. Um, what I've discovered really is really one truth about this business. And please remember this as you visit every campus, whether it's virtually or in person, hopefully someday soon. Um, the way you're treated from the very first time you get an email, a text, a phone call, personal visit, or a Zoom, or get junk mail, and we send so much of it, I'm sorry, to the very first day you tuck yourself in your dorm room bed, that entire process and the way we treat you correlates highly with how you'll be treated for the next 4 years. It's amazing. I wish I were wrong. But my daughter and I, the first colleges we ever visited were on the East Coast. We were making our way up and down from Washington, D.C. to Florida. We stopped off at a high quality private school in Virginia, fairly well known. And halfway through the tour, we got to the women's first year dormitory, went upstairs, and it was a very nice dorm. And we walked into the living room, and there were all these young ladies sitting doing what you do, you know, talking and texting and she whipped around and crashed in Dad's chest and said, "I want to go home now." Like, what? I'm having a great time. Well, it wasn't about me. That's the first thing I learned. I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "I'll tell you in the car." And she wasn't being arrogant at all. She just was upset. And she's very smart. She's one of those 4.25 AP everything students, right? She knew exactly what she wanted. So I got outside and said, "Please tell me." She goes, "You didn't notice?" "No, Dad." No one looked up and even said hello. And did you notice during the entire time, all the other students walking by us in the buildings, in the cafeteria, on the sidewalks, nobody looked up. I don't feel comfortable here. Like, wow. By the way, if there's any gentlemen here, I assume by the names there are some guys as well as gals. This is not a slam against males, but apparently women have a better radar than we do. They're busy looking and feeling and taking in everything. They're looking at the emotion of what it's like to live there, not just the great academics and the great extracurriculars. I forgot that, so I learned that from my 18-year-old daughter. Pay attention how you are treated, because that's the culture of the campus. Now, Shaylee tells me you have a really great high school, vibrant, smart kids, lots of different nationality, ethnicities, and racial diversity and economic diversity. And so it seems like it's a real happy place where people are really feel challenged. If it was cold as ice and nobody paid attention to each other, and every high school has drama, I know, but you wouldn't be comfortable there, right? That's one of the key things we don't tell you is to keep your mind and your spirit open when you're visiting a campus. And so if someone writes to me, David, here at Earlham College, and I don't respond within 1 or 2 days at most, or I don't seem to value what you've shared or asked, that tells you something about the school. That's what I've learned in 31 years.
No, yeah, thank you for this awesome insight. I hope that helps everyone so far. We have a few more questions in the Q&A that we can maybe answer. How do admission officers feel about students taking courses at the AP level rather than the APs themselves?
I think that's fine. The reasons to take AP classes or AP level should not be just to impress admission officers. It's more out of curiosity and showing that you can take challenging coursework. Here are some of the tips and tricks. If you're in the first semester or even your second semester of your senior year, and you're about, let's say you're rising up through your end of your junior year right now, and you've never taken an AP class before, and you have a 3.95 GPA, and suddenly you come home and tell your parents, guess what? I'm going to take 6 AP classes next semester. What happens if you don't get A's? What happens if your GPA goes down? How do you know if a college weights the AP class higher than a 4.0 anyway? You have to ask these questions before you take the AP classes. You don't have to take the exam. I'll see the class. Okay, and so once you get that answer, I'll look and see on your transcript that you took 4 or 5 things to challenge yourself. That tells me something about you. It tells me a lot more than getting a 4 or 5 on the AP exam. The other reason to take an AP exam is to get credit for it. Here's a tip, by the way: before you take the exams and sign up for more AP classes than 2 or 3, call or write to the colleges you're interested in and ask, what is the limit of the number of AP credits you will allow me to walk in with? Some people say 6, other people say 5, some people say 11. So one thing I can tell you is hardly any university or college allows you to take every single AP test and start as a sophomore. So before you take it, ask yourself, why am I taking this? For enrichment, to show that I have a stronger academic interest. And yes, I would like college credit for it, so I don't have to spend 4 years in school, but find out how many they accept and when they stop. There's your tip.
Awesome. Okay, our next, sorry, go ahead.
I see a next question here. What if we have lowest GPA? That one? We didn't hit that one, did we?
No,
But I have an excellent extracurriculars. Do I still have a chance in the top colleges? Yes. I have about a 50% acceptance rate at Earlham College. We are number 80 on the national list of US News Report, so we're way up there. I would love a 3.5 GPA person who had a well-rounded background and interest other than just taking all academics. Why is that? That's because I have seen lots of students come in with straight A's, high test scores, and lots of AP classes that crash and burn their first 2 semesters and sometimes need to leave. Why? Because they put so much pressure on themselves to be excellent and perfect that they don't allow any room to enjoy the rest of what college is supposed to offer, a broad range of activities that may or may not be related to your major, but also make you a more well-rounded person. So yes, I think a 3.5 will get you in at about 95% of the private schools in America today. I know that for a fact. Should we take the next one, Jaylee?
Yes, the next question is, do you have advice for writing college essays? What makes a student's essay interesting to admission officers?
What makes it interesting to me is when somebody actually looked at my college, understood what our mission and values were, and says, I'm a match for you, and here's why. When you start off just talking about you and saying, I was the president of my finance club, I've done this, I've done that, it's just loading up accolades about yourself. Well, yes, that's impressive. I do appreciate that. What I want to know is, what are you going to do with it? Did you do all that just to get into college, or do you actually have an interest in something that we value? And so at my school, we're very strong in the STEM, but we're very strong in outdoor and environmental leadership. So if somebody wrote in an essay that one of the things you're all burned up about is how our federal government and our senators and Congress people can't seem to get their head around the reality of climate change. What do you intend to do with your passion for climate change? Do you intend to start a student group? Do you intend to join a student group? Do you want it to be part of your career? How do you think you want to help change the world for the better? That's important to me rather than listing why you're so great as a human. What are you going to do with it? Because those are the students that actually go out and do something that we're real proud of.
Okay. Our next question is, my school doesn't offer a lot of AP classes. Would I be less competitive than other people since my AP classes are not that many compared to other students?
That is a wonderful question, Daisy. So let me say this. There are many more high school districts that don't offer AP classes than do. The wealthiest parts of the country, of course, have the most AP because they can afford to pay the AP teachers, they can bring in the exam proctors. Listen, if you showed up with a 3.95 at Earlham College with one or two AP classes and were consistently involved in school activities, were consistently involved in things you actually cared about in your life outside of school, you're going to get admitted to Earlham College. You're going to get admitted to Beloit. You're going to get admitted to Grinnell. You're going to get admitted to Oberlin. Well, I'm in that consortium, by the way. You'll get admitted. Why? Because we should not hold it against you because your school did not have the resources to offer more AP classes. Go back to my answer about consistency. If you were consistent in all of your academics without 15 or 12 AP classes, but just a handful, that's perfect. You've satisfied my need to see that consistency. I know you're a good risk because you're going to stick to it even when the times get tough.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I think we have one more question. Is it okay to email the admission officers of elite colleges like Ivy Leagues when they're bombarded with emails other than colleges?
Well, here's where we have to pivot. There's an academic word. We got to pivot. We have to figure out a way to get noticed. And you are right. At some of these schools who have 1,000 applications per seat, you're probably not going to get an answer because the admissions folks in those offices do not need to take the time to get to know you. They simply look at you on paper or electronically and yep, yes, no, and maybe so, and either wait list or you're in or no, never mind. The way to get around that is to find out from the alumni office, which you can find on the website. Call and say, I am a student in Sausalito, California, and I like to know if there are any alumni in my region. I'd like to talk to them about Harvard and their experiences there. If that person, who will probably be so curious as to why a high school junior or senior is calling them, it could be somebody in your neighborhood, could be one of your teachers, could be anybody. They're going to say, wow, that's pretty bold. Sure, let's talk. And so you, however you communicate, you'll find out and say, look, I know I'm not going to get an answer from the admission office. Would you help me present myself? Now, before you think that's not possible, before you think that's a waste of time or you're too shy or it's so absurd, remember what I kept saying earlier. Surprise me with something out of the ordinary. You just put out there a situation where you're right. I'm trying to get a relationship with this admission officer who probably doesn't care about the 5,000 applicants who are in front of him or her. Okay, and so what do I do? If you found a way to me, because an alumna or an alumnus who might have a little bit of sway and gives to the school every year says, oh, I'll get their attention. That's how you need to use your networking because that impresses me. Like, you better believe I'm going to pick up the phone next time. There's some other things here, since we don't have any questions sitting here. We can talk a little bit about how to apply for scholarships and then the rank and level of importance given to pieces of the application. Let me tackle that one first. In my regular presentation, I have several slides of actual admission models that I share. Maybe we can do that sometime. I can do that presentation. It puts all these tips in a row and helps you look at and see how people actually look at information and make decisions on them. There are some schools that use just GPA. Some colleges, universities, mostly public, use GPA and sometimes GPA and SAT. There are several schools I'm aware of, mostly private schools, that say we're going to give points to each one of these things. We're going to take their weighted grade point average. By the way, ask the college or university whether they want a weighted or unweighted GPA. We want you to get weighted GPA for the things you did in high school, okay? For honors and things like that. So we'll give points for that. Then we'll give points for activities and interrelationship in the way you interrelate with the college university. Did they visit? Did they call? Did they answer emails? Did they log in and watch a online virtual specialty. For example, a couple of weeks ago, we had something on fun for students to watch who were applicants saying, here, watch this. We had a Madagascar hissing beetles race. We have this, zoology lab. And so they lined them all up on this racetrack, and all the students, made fun bets on who would win. And so the students who participated and watched that got points. And so we look at all these things, we assign points to them, we add the points up, you get a summary, and you look at a chart and go, okay, this person's a 16 out of 20 for the number of things they've been involved with. That equals admit, deny, or something. And so I can't tell you what specific colleges do, but I can tell you the question to ask, which is, what specific things do you use in the application review process? Specifically, do you use grade point? Do you use showing of interest in the college, and how so? Do you use the number of visits I make? What weight do you give to the SAT? I give 50-50 SAT GPA weight. Here's the trick. This is the best thing that's ever happened during the pandemic, because so many people are stressed out right now about testing, especially. If your school is test optional, I have something called a do no harm policy. If you have an excellent grade point average, like 375 and up, whether it's weighted or unweighted, AP or not, and you don't feel great about your SAT score, but you submitted it anyway, I'm going to call you or email you and say, hey, would you mind if I took this out of the admission process? Because I'll take the 375 and you're in, and you get $20,000 in merit scholarship. If I leave the lower SAT score in, you still get in, but you only get $10,000 scholarship. See what I just did? It's called do no harm. So ask the college or university, do you have a do no harm policy for your SAT scores if it would depress my level of merit scholarship? I have so many other things I could share with you, but that's one of those cool tricks that you need to learn about. I have one more for you if I can, and I see we have some more questions. There is a practice out there, mostly by the top tier schools. It's called, and these are my words, suppressing financial aid for early adopters. Let me give you an example. You know the Apple iPhone 13 is coming out soon, right? And the 12 is now out. When those phones start coming out, people are willing to pay the top price for them just to get them, right? It's the same with new cars and trucks for adults. It's the same for most things. Some colleges have used algorithms to figure out that if you are so determined and so absolutely convinced that that's the very best school for you, you'll get in, but they'll give you less financial aid. That does happen. Now, you can't find out about it, but you can ask about it. Here's the question. Hey, college or university, if I were to apply regular decision versus early decision, and say I knew I was going to get in, just give me that, early and regular, would I get the same amount of financial aid or not? Yes or no? They hate that question. And the fact is, we should be able to tell you, yes, you'll get the same financial aid package no matter when you apply and are accepted. If they say, I don't want to answer that, or I can't, now you know I was right. Okay? I'm ready for some questions.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so our first question we have here is, can we fly alumni on the school website to network with an admissions officer?
What I would do is go to the college's website, look for advancement or development or alumni relations up in the top ribbon, and click on there, and simply call I can tell you right now, right across the campus here, our alumni office, if they got a call from you, they're going to take it. You say, I live in this town. Would you give me the names, or at least tell these people that I would like to talk to them, and let the alumni call you? Yes, you can do that. Ooh, look at this next one. This is just like the last one. I want to email Stanford's admission officers. Will they read the email I sent them? I can't tell you. I don't know. But go back to my previous statement. If they care, they'll find the time and resource to answer you as a human being. If they have too many people and they can't get personal with you, you're not going to hear from them. Oh, there's a good one. What exactly can an alumni do for your chances of admission? Well, let's be clear about this one. Recent news, we have people who went to prison for trying to bribe people to get into school, right? We have all sorts of admission scams going on. An alumna, which is a woman, or alumnus, which is a man, can't get you admitted because they're putting political pressure on a school. We're not supposed to do that. They can't say, you either let my neighbor's daughter in or I'll stop giving to you. I don't want to hear that. What they can do for you is represent you and say, I have known or I know this person. I met them recently. He is a really great student, and I think they'd be a great match for you. That's called on our database an alumni referral. There's an actual box on my database, my CRM, that says alumni referral, yes, no. And if an alumnus or alumna referred you, I'm going to pay more attention to it. You know why? If I don't, I'm going to get a lot of flack. I'm going to get calls. The president will say, how come you didn't answer that famous alumni's request? So yes, alumni can refer you. Next question.
Yes, so if I want to apply to Harvard or Stanford, but my GPA is lower than their average, will they reject me automatically?
I can't answer that. This is one of the weaknesses of College Confidential. They're armchair experts. I'm the only person who started that actually works in higher education. The rest of them are just a parent or an outsider. I can't answer that, so they can't. They can guess, but until you find out what it is that they value and why, as a university, by the program you're first interested in, I can't answer that. Let's say you fall below their average metric of GPA and SAT score. Let's go back to my earlier example. Let's say they just started a program and they're looking for students. That may help if you say, I'm interested in this specific major. Like, okay, well, she or he's just below our margin, but you know what? We really do need to feel that major because the donor is really adamant we hurry up and spend her money properly. But the only thing I can tell you is to call the office and say, I'm below margin. Is there anything else I can do that would make a difference to my application? It may be your activities overcome them. But please remember what I said earlier. 4,000 colleges in the country, 4,000 different answers.
Awesome. I think we also have some questions in the chat that we missed earlier. Okay. Our first one is, do you have to qualify for financial aid to get scholarship from a college? Or is it okay if your house income is more than like this financial aid mark?
There are two kinds of financial aid. One is merit-based, and that means we offer you a merit-based scholarship regardless of how much money your parents make or how much financial aid you do or don't need. And the way we call that in the business is need blind awarding. And the way it's need blind is we give it to you upon admission before you ever filed for financial aid. Okay, we can't offer aid to anyone who wasn't admitted. So the first thing we do is admit you. And most colleges, if not just about all today, will give you a rather healthy merit-based scholarship that you can keep for 4 years. For example, with I guess it's a 385 and above here, we give $30,000 a year. That's 70% of tuition for 4 straight years, provided you make good progress. And you don't need straight A's, but you need to make progress in those 4 years. Okay, so that's merit-based. The need-based scholarships and grants come from a person saying, I actually do need the money. So Everybody is telling you all the same thing. Have your parents file the FAFSA, free application for federal student aid, even if you don't think you qualify, because you really don't know. You'd be surprised that I have families whose gross income is $150,000 a year still qualify for need-based aid. Why? They have three people, three kids, two of them in college. And so they need extra help. So those are the two kinds of basic aid. And we also, most of us offer other scholarships. And somebody asked about how do you apply and qualify for scholarships. Most schools will offer scholarships in specific areas. This Saturday, I have 100 students coming to Scholarship Day, and we offer $2,500 to full tuition, $2,500 up to $5,000 in theater, music, art, community service, and engagement. Okay, and they're pretty much unlimited. We offer full tuition scholarships, no matter how much your family makes or doesn't make a year, to people who are diversity scholars. That's somebody who is an underrepresented student in the student body. In other words, anything but a tall white male like David. And what you have to do to get these is simply follow the directions on our websites. So go to the website of all the college, university you're interested in, click on scholarships and financial aid. Usually they're buried in the admissions button. So scroll down there and it will list all the things you can get. Okay, and so money does matter, but only when you need it. Other than that, most of us are giving scholarships right now to folks, no matter how much financial aid they need.
Okay, awesome. And then our next question is, do colleges expect you to know what you're going into, or is it okay if you declare undecided?
Okay. Half of all SAT takers this past year clicked undecided when they signed up for the test on the form. It is not a joke when I tell you that most students change between 3 to 5 times. Okay. I started out as a biology major. Then I went to business administration. I ended up in communications and humanities. I graduated with a degree in humanities and communications, went on to get an MBA. I would have never guessed I'd end up there. We prefer students and the most liberal arts, which has nothing to do with liberal nor the arts specifically, but it's a broad-based education. Even universities and public schools offer a broad-based liberal arts education, is taught on the predicated notion that your first year ought to be about exploring. If you said, I wanted to be an oncologist since I was 4, and that's what you're going to be, by gosh, we're going to help you get there. Chances are your parents wanted you to be, by the way, at 4 years old. But, if you want to be a lawyer since you were 7 and you're pre-law and you come in here and you graduate pre-law, that's the minority of students. Most get in and go, oh, I thought I could swing organic and inorganic. I don't want to be a chemist anymore. I think I'll go into business administration. That's totally normal. So we don't expect you to know what you want to do at all.
Okay, our next question is there any way to make sure that the alumni you're talking to has influence, or does every alumni have influence?
Well, not every alumni has influence. Let's say there are 20,000 living alumni at any particular smaller college. There are some that want nothing to do whatsoever with their alma mater. There are others that are so charged up, they go to every reunion every single year, even right after they graduate. They give to the college regularly. And so here's what I would do. Honestly, I've been on the other side, and I've been a vice president for advancement and development and alumni relations. If you call my office and say, would you please find me somebody in my neighborhood or who went to my high school and graduated from your university or college who's willing to talk to me about their experience and what I might find, believe me, they're going to go onto their database and find somebody who is happy about it, wants to help you, has the ability to be sort of a mentor in terms of career. And frankly, those are some of the best friendships you can have. You can find maybe 1 or 2 people who maybe were out of school just for 5 years. and they say, oh, I just graduated from there 5 years ago. Now I'm doing this job in this company or nonprofit. Let me make some calls for you. That's what you want. Okay. So if a person's angry at the university, we're sure not going to give you their name. Okay.
Okay, great. I think we have some more questions in the Q&A, so we'll quickly answer those too. Does having an alumni that's a family member decrease the weightage of the alumni's referral?
No. In fact, this is an ethical approach to weighting alumni relationships. And it's called legacy. The word legacy simply means my brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, mom, or dad went to the school too. We're looking for people who want to go here, whose mom and dad or brother or sister went here, because we offer a small scholarship for them, maybe $2,000 extra a year. So, we want alumni to send their children here because it helps the school later down the road. But it doesn't always give preference. So the question you answer, because I can't answer it for all 4,000 schools, you get to ask, does legacy matter in the admission decision process? That's your question. Told you I was going to give you lots of tools and not as many answers.
No, it's definitely, like you said, it matters for each college though. So we can apply these
Yep.
tools to any college. Okay. Our next question is, some students contribute to research at universities with tasks like organizing and data collection for university professors. Will this be helpful in showing interest in a subject or a college? And how can I connect with researchers at college to get this type of opportunity?
Well, our anonymous attendee is, I'm not sure if he or she is asking that they currently do this as a high school student, or are they saying doing this as a college student? Which do we think it is?
I think like as a high schooler, they are looking to do that, or they are currently doing that.
Okay, there are a lot of programs out there now where you can shadow people in high school during the school year, or in the summer do some hands-on research as an assistant to a professor at your local college university. Absolutely incredibly related to getting admitted. Yes, because if there's one character of person that can make an impression on the admissions dean, it's a faculty member at that school. They're going to pick up the phone and say, I would like to make sure this student gets admitted. Well, as long as your grades are acceptable and test scores are acceptable, yes. And so that's the kind of pressure we get every day behind the scenes. So yes, if that's something available to you during a summer program, which by the way is another great way to show interest, is if they have a summer outdoor experience or a computer coding camp or whatever kind of experience you have, go to it, have some fun. We will have checked a box on our application database if you apply saying, she came to the university and did research with Dr. Smith.
Awesome. Okay, our next question is, how much weightage do colleges give to extracurriculars when considering an application?
Again, 4,000 different answers, 4,000 schools. I give a lot of weight to it in two ways. One, if the person was involved in, 3 or 4 things consistently during school and their grades were also consistent. It also tells me a lot if all they did was live and breathe their one sport or 2 sports to the detriment of their schoolwork. This is where I hope I don't insult anybody who might be a varsity athlete in high school. My daughter played soccer, she played all sorts of, and basketball, and my sons could care less. They did marching band, okay? And they lifted weights through high school. They all got great grades. But if my daughter cared about nothing except playing soccer in college, there's plenty of schools that'll recruit you. But I think it's more important to show that you have a well-rounded understanding that sports is not the reason you go to school unless you're a Division I superstar, which there are very few out there. The majority of students do extracurriculars because they enjoy them, not because they want it to be their sole identity in college. Okay?
Okay, our next question is, would we contact in order to find, oh, who would we contact in order to find a summer research or business related position? I'm assuming like how you were saying that so and so was studying and researching with me over the summer. It would be great if we could admit them.
Well, I'm going to split these two in half. The summer research position, I would go to the website and first just when it says search our site, type in things like summer research, the summer programs for high schools, and see what pops up. And every school has that. I know we have a couple things like that. We have a summer museum program here in our museum where students can go pick apart the mummy. We actually have a mummy here, and they can play and curator and do all sorts of other things and set up different displays um, for some of the local students in elementary and middle school. But the business part of it, this is where you have to lean on your parents and your high school guidance officers, or and even call companies in the area. Do you have a summer program for students who want to be interested in that industry? Um, there's a company out in Rockford, Illinois. I worked there for a while. That actually, they used to be called Rockwell Industries. Now they have a different name. They actually make spacesuits, and they make the space shuttle, and they make almost every part in every um, consumer airplane and jetliner in the United States. They have a summer program for high school students who want to explore the industry, STEM, engineering, science, math, computer science, fabrication, research. And so we can't tell you what they all are from the college most often. You have to start poking around. I would call the human resources offices at these companies and ask if they have any summer program for high school students. That's what I would do.
Okay, our next question is, what is the first thing that a college admissions officer will look on a student's application?
Okay, I'm going to tell you the truth. The first thing I look at right away is a GPA. I look at the GPA and everything I've talked about to this moment, you can rewind. If I see a good solid B, B plus, A, straight A students, like, okay, now let's find out more about them. If I see a C minus, it's like, no, they're not going to make it. And so once I get over the GPA bump, I start looking, well, let's find out who Shaylee Nadavati really is. Okay. And I'm going to start poking around and picking apart the application, say, wow, what a great essay. Now I understand what makes her tick. She's got this great shape the future thing she's pushing. And by the way, that'll look great on your application. And so it shows me that you took initiative, the big I, initiative. And so, but the GPA is the first thing I look at. That's just what that's what I've been trained to do. Oh, I like this question. Do you look at the final GPA or do you look at the entire transcript and grades each year? I look at the whole linear grading. I'll go back to, 10th grade, ninth grade sometimes, but 10th grade, I look to see the ups and downs. It's okay to have a blip, by the way. I struggle with geometry. I hated geometry, but I got A's in calculus. How'd that happen? I have no idea. But somebody saw and went, okay, well, I hated geometry too, and I'm the admission officer. I don't care about that. I care about this. And so it's okay to have an inconsistency here and there. But I do look at the way you're working through each semester, and I look for those consistencies, and maybe there's a few blips there. And then at the end of the year, every high school is required to send the final GPA. So let me give you a massive tip. This is probably one of the most important tips I could give you tonight. Let me try a question. And if you have the answer, go ahead and pop it in the Q&A or chat. You ready? Here's your question, everybody. What's the best time to apply to any college or university? I'll give you 30 seconds to answer that one. What's the best time to apply to a college or university? The clock is ticking. Hmm. 15 seconds. Nobody's got this one, right? Okay, I'll answer it. The best time to apply to any college or university, senior fall semester, when your application is ready, November, December time, senior year, early as possible, EDEA, early decision. Okay, so far, all of these questions are right. All the answers are correct. It depends upon what the deadlines are. But I'm going to tell you the real time to apply. Here you go. The best time to apply to any college university is when you look your best on that transcript. Why? Here's why. Let's say at the end of your junior year, everything's going right. Life is in balance. Everything's great. Relationships, everything. Had a great year at school. You won all these awards. You took all these classes. You got a solid 3.95. And you apply right then. Why? What happens in the first semester of your senior year? You suddenly take a bunch of classes that were hard and your GPA dropped. Uh-oh. We will package you up with financial aid based upon the time that you were admitted. I would rather, if I were a student, want to get the financial aid at a 3.95 would give me than a 3.6 would give me, if that's what the break point was in each college. And that's, again, we need to ask, what are the points that give me, what's the $10,000 scholarship? What's a $20,000 scholarship? Well, that's a 3.5 and a 1,200. That's a 3.9 and a 1,400. You need those answers. But keep in mind, if you are doing really well at the end of your junior year, and you've got some tough classes ahead of you, go ahead and apply. I'm going to accept you and package you up for financial aid, whether it's early decision or early action, regular decision. It doesn't matter to me. That's what you're going to get. You'll get a higher merit-based scholarship than if you applied later. Part B, no, I'm not going to change your merit scholarship when I get your final GPA. Don't worry. What I accepted you with and the financial aid package you got, you're locked in. Okay? That doesn't mean you screw off in high school in your senior year, because then I will rescind your application. Okay? So good answers, folks. When your application's ready, that's a good one. But in general, that's what I look for. If I were you, as soon as you think you're at the top of your game, don't risk it. Go ahead and apply.
Awesome. Okay, I think another questions in the Q&A, would applying to early decision increase chances of admission when compared to early action or regular admission, since the decision is binding?
Okay, this is one of the most sensitive topics for me as a professional and as a parent. I do not believe in early decision binding rules. I do not believe in them at all. And this is my second top tier school. Why do I say that? First of all, I had a parent and a student ask me at one of my in-person seminars, if we accept an offer for early decision and we choose not to come, will we get arrested or sued? It's like, oh my gosh, no. There are no legal teeth whatsoever in early decision. No college university can force you to attend the school. Okay, please understand, that's the fact. Binding decision says that you have to pull your applications from every other school. My 3 children did not, and here's why. Colleges today put words out there like, if you agree to come to our school, we guarantee you we will meet your financial need. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Your question, here's another free tip. Would you please tell me what the components of meeting my financial aid fully mean? When students hear that, the first thing is, oh, great, it's not going to cost me anything. The fact is, nearly every school, especially early decision, put things in there called loans. We met your need. We gave you a loan for $20,000. But I thought I was going to get scholarships and grants. You told me you'd fully meet my need. Well, I did. I gave you a $20,000 scholarship, but I gave you $20,000 in loan. And then your parents go, wait a minute, for whatever reason, personally, you don't feel that's worth the investment for that school, if you've pulled your applications from everywhere else and they didn't tell you to November, December, you can't apply to other places in time. So I'm telling you, as a nearly retired professional who's done this for 10 college universities for 30 plus years, that I would not pull my application out from any other school. I'd wait until I had every financial aid offer for every early decision, early action school, and go back and say, wait a minute, I really do think you're my first choice school, but I do not want, my parents don't want for me to have these big student loans, and they cannot handle that size of a parent loan. Okay, and negotiate with them. Okay, so now some people in my business think that's unethical, but let me give you the big secret here. Early decision wasn't designed for you and your benefit. It was designed for us. It was started decades ago by the top tier schools who wanted to skim the cream of the crop of high schoolers each year. Now, it's become a scene where you want the very best education you can get for you personally, and your family would like to do it with the least investment possible. By the way, that's called American consumerism. We don't want to pay top dollar for everything, right? We want to shop around. So my thing about early decision is, we're not going to find out that you didn't pull your applications from other schools. That's illegal. Okay? We cannot do that. That was a court case settled years ago. But I want you to make sure that you are thoroughly convinced that it is the right school for you financially, geographically, the feel of the school, like we talked about earlier. You know, you feel like you belong there. You feel like the faculty are going to be there for you. You feel like you fit in. Okay. Then you make your final decision. That's the most important thing I want to share with you tonight. And it looks like this. It's David's equation. Okay. The final decision of where you attend has just two components. It's what you value, not what we tell you to value, but what you value in higher education for the net investment you and your family will have to make. That's it. That's the whole thing. It's not about us, it's about you. Here's another question. What's Linda want? I understand the final transcript needs to be submitted in senior year after you have been admitted. At what point might you rescind the offer if the GPA drops? First of all, I think I've only rescinded 2 admission offers in 31 years. That should make you feel a little bit better. If you had a 3.75 or a 3.5 or a 4.0 and your GPA dropped to a 3.2 or 3.3, I'm not going to rescind your offer of admission. If you absolutely didn't give squat about your high school career in your senior year, and you didn't go to class, and you didn't take tests, and you skipped school, and like, first of all, you're going to get screamed at by your teachers and your parents, right? You're probably not going to do that. But the 2 people in my life that did it in the past 30 years, I rescinded it because they just didn't care anymore. They said, great, I'm into this school. I'm just going to cruise through my senior year. That's not what I want on my campus.
Okay, and I think we have another question in the chat. Um, should essays be written in more of a story and artistic style, or should they be more explicit and talk about your experiences?
Oh, here's a escapist answer. I like them both. I want it to be your essay. I want you, first of all, I realize there are books, there are guides, there are proctors and tutors, there are people you can pay to help you write your essay. I'll know. I will know if somebody wrote your essay. Believe me, I don't know what it is, but I can sniff it out. What I want you to do is just be you. Tell me about you, your experiences, and how they're going to fit in at my college. That's why I don't like the common applications canned questions. If you found a $10 bill and you could spend it anyway, how would you improve humanity? Forget that. I would like to know what you are about and how you feel as though you're going to contribute to the student body here and what you expect to get out of your education. That's what I want to know.
Okay, and another question in the chat. Um, okay, so for AP classes, do you always get credit or do you have to check with your college? I think you kind of already answered this,
Yeah,
but
check with the school. Make sure they'll accept the ones you're taking before you sign up for them. And if you want to take them anyway, that's fine. If the school doesn't take more than, let's say, 16 or even 5 AP courses, and most of us require a 4 or a 5 on the test to get credit for it. Some actually let you go with a 3. Just ask. That's your tip.
okay, and I think there's one last question in the chat. Do colleges look at your AP scores when deciding your admissions? If so, how much does it weigh in?
I can't answer that specifically for any particular college. Again, you need to go back and ask, how and where does my AP test weigh into the admission decision? Here's a scenario. You've got a solid 3.5 because you've taken 4 AP classes and you got a solid B plus in them, not an A, but the weighted GPA pushes you up to a 3.6 or 3.7. Hey, that looks good. So I just gave you 2 questions to ask. Will you reweight my GPA and my transcript if the high school doesn't do it? Okay. And if so, where does that put me on your admission scale? Okay. So that's this is more about asking questions and getting straight answers from admissions officers.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions. If you guys have some, feel free to put them in the chat right now.
Please understand that my opinions about higher education and things like early decision and binding agreements are mine. They don't represent Earlham College. They don't represent any school. They represent my experience over 30 years working with thousands of students and families and seeing how colleges treat students. And when my personal opinion is we should be reaching out to you and valuing who you are and not putting up barriers and saying you're lucky you even get to come into our admission office, let alone even be accepted. This isn't supposed to be about us. It's supposed to be about you. And that's the kind of admission office you will need to work with. If you still think that Harvard's the only school for you and it's always been Harvard because it's going to make your dreams come true, let me introduce you to a concept called Ivy Lust. And this is an insider term I coined a long time ago. It's somewhere on College Confidential. And that it goes like this. If only I could get into that school that has a 10% admission rate, my life will be better. I'll control more people. I'll have more money. I'll have a better career. I will be on top of the mountain. When in fact, that's not true. It's all about the fit. And so let me leave you on that issue with a study done by 2 professors, one from Princeton and one in Harvard, called Professors Dale and Kruger. They did a study a few years back that said if you take income only as the proof of the value of an education at the top tier over a 30-year career, and they studied this over hundreds of alumni, you will make less money graduating from an Ivy League school than any other college or university. Now, of course, more study is required to figure out whether that's public or private, small, big, which coast are they on? Are they 2-year or are they 4-year? All they came up with is if you're about salary, don't graduate from a Ivy League school. Okay. And so think about where you really want to go and why. You get one shot at this.
Okay, another question. Do you think it's important to go to a better school because of the better peer group? Would the peer group push you to do better in your college experience?
Let's go back to that concept of feeling included and comfortable. First of all, everyone tells you get out of your comfort zone, think out of the box, try new experiences, even if they're scary. Yes, yes, yes. I agree with those concepts. But a culture of a school is the most important and most overlooked part of it. If you want to be around people just like you who are high achievers and are absolutely driven to be the very best academicians they could be and are absolutely obsessed with every test and every club they can join to try to get noticed. Where's the diversity in that? And so, yes, peer groups push each other, but peers don't always mean friends. And I will share this with you. And I've served now a total of 16 universities and colleges as a consultant and as a full-time employee. Students don't leave colleges and universities mostly because of financial aid and money. No, they left because it was the wrong match to begin with. It was a mismatch between what they were looking for, who they were as a human being, and how much they were willing to give of themselves and respect and understand other people. I think back to my daughter Sarah when she got to Furman University, a very fine, classic, old Southern university in South Carolina. She went there the first time. It was a top choice, great top tier school, beautiful gardens, beautiful lakes, and wonderful old style buildings. It's like the Palo Alto of the East. We got home and she said, "That's where I'm going." And then we went back again. And then she said, I don't feel comfortable here. I said, "Why not?" Everybody drives a BMW. Everyone wears Dockers and Ray-Bans. Everybody is all about looking to impress. And that's not how you raised me, Mom and Dad. I went, wow, that's pretty big for an 18-year-old. So peer group means a lot of different things. Yes, a school that has an active student body where people are mostly serious about their grades is an important and very important characteristic. There's only one way to test that, and that's when it's safe to do so. Go visit the campus, sit in on classes, eat food in the cafeteria, and listen. Okay?
Okay, and I think this is the last question I see. When you're applying to colleges, how many colleges do you recommend applying to?
First of all, if you're going on the Common App, don't choose 20 because it's free. Please. I would say there's not a magic number, but if you're over 5, maybe a reach school or 2, safety schools, and then, well, if it really doesn't work out, my parents can't afford it, we'll go here because they're pretty good schools too. 3 to 5 is probably enough. The reason I say that is because on the inside, I see students apply to 10 or 15 schools, myself included, on the Common App most of the time, and they were never serious to begin with. So you should apply to the ones that meet your needs for who you are and what you want to study. And that has everything to do with weather, how far from your parents you are, how close you are, do they have a major, is it a good enough student body, do they have activities and things to do, is the town nice? It's the living part. It's just as important as the academic reputation. How's that?
That's perfect. I don't see any other questions. Oh, one more. Do colleges have any way of finding out which other colleges you applied to?
This goes back several decades. They're not supposed to. It's illegal. It's unethical for me to call up another college university and check on private personal applicant information. It's called the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and that covers everything from kindergarten to college. I have no business finding out who else has applied to another school. In fact, Yale got in trouble, I guess it was 10 years ago, for poking around and trying to figure out who had applied to their sister school over there at Harvard or Princeton. We can't do it. I have no interest in it. I only want to spend my time with people who have applied to my school. I don't care about any other college. There's my answer.
That was great. Thank you so much, David. I think that's about it for today with all the questions, and we're almost at time. Your advice and everything was super helpful. I'm sure our audience enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for your time today.
I am just thrilled to talk to real people for a change. Thank you, everybody.